Hi, my name is Jamie Utt, and I'm a diversity and inclusion consultant who's been working with schools for more than 10 years to try to end the problem of bullying in our school communities. Today, I'm here to talk with you about a particular way to think about bullying in hopes that we can start to act a little bit more as whole communities, bringing together teachers, students, and parents to prevent bullying before it actually happens in our school communities.
Yeah, my name is Thompson. I have 4 children, and I own an organization, a creative leadership organization entitled Global Ascension Productions. Um, and truth be told, I'm kind of involved in this project. This means a lot to me. I'm really excited to see this come together, and I love working with Mr. Utt. He's taught me so much about issues surrounding identity-based bullying, and I hope that you're enjoying it as well.
Great, excellent. So, what we'll kind of do is we're just talking about what is identity-based bullying, and talking about the nature of the problem being that so often we treat bullying as if it's a general problem requiring general solutions, but in reality, it's usually happening for very specific reasons, targeting specific identities. So I'm curious if you have any questions or pieces of advice for other parents that we can talk about here.
Yeah, obviously these issues are complex, and so I probably have more questions than advice at this point. But what I would say is, what I would like to ask is, some of the issues that people are bullied or children are bullied around are pretty sensitive. I mean, whether it's racially, if it's a racial problem, if it's sexual behavior, meaning like I remember in high school, girls, if they slept with a guy and it got out, they were labeled, a whore or a hoe or the slut or all those other terrible terms. And from a parental standpoint, my question is, those are difficult for adults to discuss. So what expectations should I have from children to say, hey, this is what's going on at school, and how can I best create an environment that my child will feel comfortable to talk to me about something that would be really difficult for adults to discuss?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the most important things that we can do is to try to remove in our own modeling, try to remove some of the taboo that there is around having conversations about identity, right? Like I remember my family would always tell me the 3 things you should never talk with people about are money, politics, and religion. And my philosophy nowadays is those are the 3 things we should be talking with people about, because we need to be able to demonstrate to young people what it means to actually engage respectfully in talking about our differences, right? Like I have different political views than you do probably, and we should be able to demonstrate to young people what it looks like to talk about those respectfully. And so I think one of the first things that we can do is demonstrate to them how we can actually have some of those conversations rather than avoiding them, trying to think of ways that we can access conversations around race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, wealth, ability, immigration status, all those different kinds of things, and demonstrate to them in ways that are respectful, right? No matter where you fall on your opinions in those issues, demonstrating that you have your opinions, but that you can also respect people who have different opinions than you. And that's a huge start, right? That's a huge beginning, because then you'll be able to, if you've modeled it for them, then be able to start to engage with them in conversations around that stuff, right? And around the sensitive issues. And the key is finding a way to make sure that respect is always entering that conversation, making sure that we're always being respectful, even when we vehemently disagree with other people, finding ways to try to be respectful in those conversations and model that. Because I tell parents over and over and over again, whether or not we think our kids are listening, they're listening to us and they're watching us. Especially so often parents of teenagers, they're like, my kid doesn't want anything to do with me. They don't talk to me, they don't listen to me. And what I tell them is they're listening to you more than you would ever believe. They're listening to you for social cues. They're listening to you for examples. They just will never tell you that they're listening to you, And so I think that's a huge part of it, is modeling for them what those conversations might look like.
Well, and then I guess another question I would have regarding this issue is, my children are mixed race, and my experience as a white kid growing up, I don't know that I had any bullying from my educators or adults or discrimination issues from that direction. And so I understand that teachers and educators are humans,
Mm-hmm.
and they all have their flaws like the rest of us. However, how would you suggest me engaging an educator or an administrator on issues dealing with race or discrimination or teacher bullying? Maybe a teacher is projecting, their uncomfortable views about my child in a way that is detrimental to his success in their classroom.
Yeah.
And so how can I engage in those conversations?
Yeah. Well, I think that the powerful position that you might find yourself in is that you might be able to relate to them in one way or another. Whether it's that you relate to them because you share the same race, or it's a male teacher and you can relate to them for that reason, or finding some way in which you can connect to them and start to build that relationship, so that talking about it's a little bit easier is going to be key. And then I think one of the most important things to consider in this conversation that you might have to have with a teacher is that I love the way that there's a social commentator who goes by the sort of pen name J Smooth, and what he talks about is that when engaging, for instance, racism, like if he feels like something's happening and it's a racist situation, he doesn't have an interest in talking to that person about whether or not they in their heart are a racist. So he's not going to say, you're a racist, right? Instead, he's going to be like, let's address what you said and how that was problematic. How was that racist or sexist or heterosexist or whatever it may be? And so I think any way that you can engage, whether it's a teacher or another student or whatever, and help them understand that the problem is the behavior. You're not a bad person because of what you might have said or done, but it's, like I talk about in a lot when I'm working with school communities, is that it's bullying behavior that is the problem. It's the bullying the specific nature of the behavior. And so engaging with that is a place to start, so that then they don't feel like you're attacking their character. Instead, you're trying to talk to them about a particular behavior. But then more proactively than that, what I always say to parents is to from day one, as much as you're able, start to build a relationship with teachers and administrators, so that then you can have that tough conversation with them because you already have a relationship with them, right? It's going to feel a lot more hurtful to have someone who I've never talked to before ever come in and tell me that what I did was wrong, than if somebody that I have a relationship with comes in and tells me that what I did was wrong. That's key. And then the last thing is recognizing that, because, like you said, people are flawed, people make mistakes. If you advocate for your child and that person can't hear what you're having to say, then in the end, you're the advocate. Like, you have to do what's best for your child. And if that means taking them out of that class and moving them to a different class, then that might be what needs to happen. This is coming from a teacher, right? Like, I defend teachers, but knowing that teachers sometimes make mistakes and that we can't always hear criticism, just like any person. I don't know a single human being who's good at hearing criticism, that you might need to advocate for your child. I think about a good friend of mine whose son was experiencing bullying in school, and after working really hard to try to engage the school in addressing the problem, she couldn't get them to see it as a bigger issue than just like, my kid was mistreated on this particular day. So she and her son had to talk about it, and he and her came to the conclusion that they should choose a different school. Then you just got to be the advocate. You're the one who has to stick up for you.
Well, and then, Jamie, I think that leads me to another point. As a business owner and somebody who manages other leaders and different personalities and has to work with, or contracted in as a consultant or whatever the relationship is, you asked what advice would I have, and I'm coming, I think, from the place of a parent who really wants the best for all kids. I mean, that's why we're investing so much time into creating this. I think your point was well taken, that when you find yourself in a challenging situation within a school, is rather than be the bull in the china shop and run in there and try and save the day, seek understanding. And so it's really tough to remove ourselves as a parent It's like the last thing I ever want. If I want anybody, I don't want anybody to tell me how to parent my kids. That's really difficult, if they do it without the loving hands, kid gloves. And then I don't want to, I don't like when people tell me they think they know best for my child without really fully understanding, my child. And so I try and come from that same place, is that I want to fully understand where that person's coming from. So I come from a place of empathy. And as a parent, that's not always tough, because it's tough to do, because it's always emotional. And I think when in anything we do, if we can be empathetic for the educator that's in a classroom with X amount of personalities, X amount of children, X amount of parents, they're getting pulled in all the different directions. They got the state, the government, the administrator, they got everybody telling the teacher what to do. That's a tough spot to be in. And so be empathetic of where they're coming from, and know that I believe most teachers really want the best for your child as well, and put yourself in a position that you're an ally. This is an alliance that you're creating with your school and your home, and try and really make that connection so everybody understands that we all share a role in the development of our child. And I think expressing that through your actions as a parent is extremely powerful.